Asylum applicants can get a work permit while their case is pending, but there's lots of confusion regarding who exactly is eligible, when you can apply, how to do so, how much it costs, and how long it's going to take to get your work permit after you submit your application. In this video, I'm going to clear all that up for you. I'm Brian Manning, and I used to be an asylum officer with the government, but now as an asylum lawyer, well, my team and I help immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. All right, here's what you need to know about getting a work permit based on a pending asylum case. First, you have to actually have an asylum application pending. I know it sounds obvious, right? That you've got to have an application pending to get a permit based on your pending asylum. But I'm telling you, people actually do sometimes apply for their work permit in this eligibility category without having an asylum case pending. They think that they can go ahead and apply first for the work permit and that it'll get approved as long as they apply for asylum before a decision's made on the work permit application. But that's a mistake. That's not how it works. Also, and more commonly, people attempt to apply for asylum and then they apply for a work permit thinking that they've got an asylum case pending when they in fact don't. You see, it's not at all uncommon for USCIS or the immigration court to fail to process asylum applications that they receive. Sometimes these things just get lost in the mail or misplaced and forgotten in some basement somewhere. The point is this: you can't be sure that you have a pending asylum case until you get confirmation that it's been accepted by the government. With USCIS, this is straightforward. You should get what's called a receipt notice, which says, we got your application and it's pending as of X date. For defensive asylum applications, those submitted to the immigration court for people in deportation proceedings, it can be a bit trickier. They don't issue a receipt notice. In any event, you've got to confirm that your asylum application has been accepted by the government before you can even think of applying for a work permit, which, by the way, is technically called an Employment Authorization Document, or EAD. So once you've confirmed that you've got an asylum case pending, how long do you have to wait before you can apply to USCIS for a work permit? Well, before I answer that, let me stress that the rules around work permits, like how long you have to wait and what you have to do to get one, have changed a lot in recent years and are subject to change again. So I recommend that you talk with an immigration lawyer about this to ensure you're getting current information. I regularly hear from people who swear that the rules are different than what they in fact are, based on information they found online that simply isn't up to date. So be careful there. Okay, back to the all-important question. How long must you wait to apply for a work permit after having submitted your asylum application? Well, at present, 150 days. You're allowed to present your work permit application to USCIS 150 days, which is a tiny bit under 5 months, after the date on which your asylum application was received by the government. So how do you figure that out? Where can you find the date from which you'll count the 150 days until you can send off your work permit application? It's in the receipt notice, and it's the first full sentence in the body of the letter. That sentence says, your complete Form I-589 application for asylum and withholding of removal was received and is pending as of June 9th, 2022. So that's the date at the end of the sentence, which in this example is June 9th, 2022. Now remember, in the United States, we list the month first and then the day and then the year. That's an important distinction from, well, most of the world. Sorry on behalf of my country for being weird about that. So take that date, go to a calendar and count forward 150 days. Or for shorthand, it's fine to just jump forward 5 months rather than counting the actual days. That's when you can apply for a work permit based on asylum pending. So in this case, if the application date is June 9th, 2022, then the person could apply for their work permit on November 9th, 2022. Okay, yes, technically they could apply a few days before that, but using the 5 months method is just easier, all right? Let me stress that the date on which the government accepts your asylum application is the only date that matters for purposes of counting the days to your eligibility to apply for a work permit. There's a lot of bad information out there to the contrary, which has led people to think that this calculation has something to do maybe with when they arrived in the United States, or for people in deportation proceedings, when they had their first court date, or when they were released from custody if they were detained. None of that matters. The operative date for purposes of the asylum clock, as it's sometimes called, is the date on which the government accepts your asylum application. Okay, moving on. How do you apply for your work permit based on your pending asylum case? Well, in short, you fill out Form I-765, which you can find on the USCIS website, and you send it to USCIS with a few required items. Now, required items beyond the form itself include 2 identical passport-style photographs of yourself, proof that you have an asylum case pending, and a copy of the first 3 pages of your asylum application form. Also, include a copy of your passport data page. That's the one with your photo and the biographical information on it. And if you have an I-94, which is something you get when you enter the country with a visa or are paroled into the country, then include a copy of that too. If you're a dependent in the asylum application of a principal applicant, like if your parent or spouse is the one who is listed on page 1 of the asylum application as the person who's actually applying for asylum, but you're included in the case, then you need to include proof of your qualifying relationship to the principal applicant. If that's your spouse, include a copy of your marriage certificate. If it's your parent, include a copy of your birth certificate. Remember, if you send in anything in a language other than English, then it needs to be accompanied by a certified English language translation. And last thing on required documents. Do you need to show that you're a member of a nonprofit organization like ASAP or CASA? No, at the time I'm making this video, you don't. You're eligible to apply at 150 days without being a member of either of those organizations. This is thanks to some litigation and policy changes by the Biden administration. You thankfully don't have to wait a full year to be eligible to apply for a work permit, as the Trump administration tried to make happen, and you don't have to join a nonprofit. All right, how to fill out the work permit application form is beyond the scope of this video, but I'll just note that in the part where it asks for your eligibility category at the top of page 3, you're going to put the letter C in the first little box and then the number 8 in the second box. Just leave the third box blank. This is the eligibility code for someone who qualifies for a work permit on the basis of a pending asylum case. And at present, you've got to mail in your work permit application and supporting documents. You can't submit this online. It's true that certain people can already apply for an EAD online, but asylum pending isn't one of the categories that can do so now. But that will change. I'm sure eventually you'll be able to, so it can't hurt to check the USCIS website to see if you can do it when it's time for you to apply. Okay, let's talk about money. Does it cost to apply for a work permit based on your pending asylum case? No, not for first-time applicants. It's completely free the first time you apply under this category. There's no application form fee and no biometrics processing fee the first time around. But you do have to pay up when you seek to renew your EAD. So when the 2 years validity of your initial EAD is close to expiring and you apply for another EAD based on your pending asylum case, you've got to pay. At present, that fee is $495. All right, finally, let's talk about the timeline. How long will it take for USCIS to make a decision on your EAD application? The good news is that for first-time applicants, things are moving quickly right now. Most of my clients are getting their work permit in the mail in less than 2 months after having applied. But for people who are renewing their work permit, it's a different story entirely. They can expect to wait a year or more. I know, it's ridiculous. Thankfully, USCIS recently said it will consider an EAD to be valid for 18 months beyond the expiration date stated on the card, as long as the person applied to renew their EAD before the expiration date stated on the card. So if you did that, if you applied to renew before the expiration date listed on your current card, then you can keep working legally for 18 months after the stated expiration date. Let me know in the comments what work permit related questions you have. And don't hesitate to call my law firm if you'd like to discuss your asylum case. I'm Brian Manning, and as always, it's an honor to serve you in your asylum journey.